Okay, I'm going to talk to you about the polyphony of the Dave Smith Instruments Pro 2. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I see anyone talk about it on the internet, someone says, oh yeah, this monophonic synth, and then someone will be like, no, it's polyphonic, and then someone will be like, no, actually, it's paraphonic. And then there'll be this lively debate about what it is and what constitutes each type. And it's always sort of traumatic. But I'm going to dispel some myths. I'm going to provide some clarity. And we're going to talk about the really cool functionality that this largely monophonic, but also something else, synthesizer has. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Right now, it's in monophonic mode with one oscillator. This oscillator is low note priority. That means, like a lot of analog synths, the lower the note is, it will get the priority. The higher notes get no priority and don't sound. Okay, that's cool. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn on all of the other oscillators. There's oscillator 2, and we'll turn up its output level. Oscillator 3, we'll turn it to sawtooth and turn up its output level. Oscillator 4, turn it to sawtooth and turn up its output level. And there we have that kind of creepy Juno 106 sound of a bunch of precisely tuned oscillators stacked atop each other. Which is not to say it's not useful. I'm sure there's a great use for it. But again, we're still in low note priority, even though 4 oscillators are playing. So what if we wanted something different? We'd go up here to miscellaneous parameters, or misc params, and go over to key assign. Right now it's set to low note. We could set it to high note. Then the higher notes would get the priority. And there are some vintage keyboards that have that arrangement, some modern keyboards that have that arrangement. It's just a matter of preference. Then we have last note priority, which is a typically digital priority, which just says, hey, whatever next note you play, that one gets the priority. So that's super awesome. Okay, so then we get to Choir of Angels, paraphonic. Suddenly, we have this. Yeah, we have a polyphonic sound. And let's be clear, it's polyphony because more than 2 notes are playing. That's what defines polyphony. Paraphony, or something that is paraphonic, is defined by all of the voices going through a single amp with a single amp envelope and a single filter with either its own filter envelope or a shared envelope between the amplifier and filter. So that's what paraphonic means. But polyphonic means that more than 2 notes play. Multiple notes can be played. So this is polyphonic, and it looks like it's going to be paraphonic flavor of polyphonic, which is limited articulation, not individual note articulation. So let's be clear about that. But that's not even true. There's some magic going on here that we're going to address. So you've already got a monosynth that you can play chords on. A really powerful monosynth that you can play chords on. How cool is that? But okay, let's dive into chords. I'm going to switch from the sawtooth to the super saw. And then guess what happens? The same thing. But we have to use the shape mod to bring the super saw to life. So let's turn up the shape mod on all of these individual oscillators. Now listen. about you, but I'm sitting here. Well, actually, I'm sorry you had to sit there because I'm like, hey, this sounds really cool. Ooh, I want to do this. Oh, I'm going to play this part. Ooh, doesn't that sound great? I don't give a crap whether we're talking about paraphonic or whatever. This thing has great, like extremely powerful oscillators that are great. And I'm playing chords on a monosynth and I'm having a great time. And ultimately, that's the most important thing. If you play live like I do, when you're up on stage, I play primarily monosynths. And I gotta admit, even though I love monosynths, occasionally I'm like, I wish I could just play chords along with what's happening. Here's your opportunity. And even without any other involvement, whether we're talking about filters or amps or whatever, just with the oscillators alone, we've got some really cool oscillator choices that will create some really cool synthesizer sounds. So whether it's paraphonic or not doesn't even matter. It's just cool that you can just switch into this mode and pow, you're playing chords. At least that's how I feel. Okay, I hope you're ready, because right now I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to engage in some crazy magic. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Okay. Let's head on over to the amplifier envelope. Right now, we've been playing this through just the sustain, which is to say a steady voltage. It's like a gate. It's just every time I play, the amp is all the way on, and when I let go, the amp goes away. So, this paraphonic synthesizer, what do you suppose is going to happen when I do this? Now, when I play a note, what's going to happen to each subsequent note that I play? Yeah, okay. Well, I want you to listen very closely. Are you ready? Here we go. Did you hear that? Okay, I know some of you might not really know what I expected you to hear or what you would have expected to hear there, but I know some of you right now are going, WTF. I'm going to do it again. Ready? If you don't know what I'm making a big deal about, a big irritating deal about right there, each of those notes, the attack of each of those notes was articulated. Yeah, that's right. Each of them was articulated. And by definition, a paraphonic synthesizer can't do that. Paraphonic synthesizer only has one envelope. And so when you press one note, the envelope goes through its course, and each subsequent note you play is subject to wherever the single envelope is in its cycle. But if you'll notice, I played each of those individual notes, and the envelope was going through the cycle, and each of them had their own envelope. Each of them had their own attack. So the thing that's most irritating about a paraphonic synthesizer does not exist right here. Each of those notes is getting its own articulation. So I'm sorry, people. This is a polyphonic synthesizer, and it's really not actually paraphonic. Now that paraphonic thing, the thing we're hearing is kind of a trick, which I'll explain. But yeah, if this was full-on paraphonic, you could not do what I just did. Now I'm going to illustrate kind of some wonkiness that occurs with this that kind of will make you say, well, it's not true articulated polyphony. There's some wonkiness. And here we'll draw some attention to the wonkiness so you don't get mad at me later when you're playing it. Okay, listen to what happens with this envelope. I've had it so it has an attack, a decay, and then it goes down to a sustain level that's pretty quiet. Okay, now listen to what happens with the next notes I play. Now, granted, once the first note I play goes through its cycle, the next notes sound like they are starting at the level that the first note got to after going through its envelope, and they are. But listen, they're also going through their own envelopes subject to that level. This is digital magic is what's happening, and that's why it's so weird. They are still articulated, but they're somewhat subject to this amplifier envelope. And the reason why is that this amplifier, I'm guessing here, and I hope I'm right. This amplifier envelope is also giving digital information to the oscillator's level control. These oscillators can be amplitude modulated. And so this amplifier is digitally saying, here's this envelope. Every time one of you oscillators is triggered, I want you to go through this envelope. And that's what's happening. That's why we have this articulation that I was pointing out to you guys, but it's still subject to the overall amp. So if that information is triggering the overall amp, all of the level information that's going to the individual oscillators is going to be subject to what's happening overall. So those volumes are changing with those oscillators, but they're subject to the overall volume, the global volume that's happening with the amplifier envelope. So if you have a different amplifier envelope setting that causes some pretty severe volume changes, you're going to have that affect these oscillators in the way that I'm showing you. But of course, if you play everything at once, it's going to affect everything at once. So, I mean, it's not perfect articulated polyphony is what I'm trying to tell you, but it doesn't really matter because you don't have to have that setting. And you can bring the sustain up and you're not going to notice. I have so many paraphonic synthesizers, and sometimes I just would love to hear what I just played. That is cooler than crap.